Hello. Who do I have here? So today I'm going to be working. Oh, hi, Mom. How are you? By some tiny miracle, I'm only no babies today. Alas, no babies here either. Birdie said she might visit in a couple weeks, though, so that would be nice. By some tiny miracle, I'm only like 2 minutes late to my own live stream. It's not a miracle, it's 5 minutes. But... I even brought water and the correct palette I was using and everything. Really wonderful. Actually focus. Still don't have my iPad. I did put it into charge, but actually Jordan borrowed it. Just gonna make finding references a little difficult, but I'll figure something out. I think I'm mostly going to be working on this corn cob, though, which doesn't really need references in quite the same way. Let's rearrange where I've got things. Maybe put some tracing paper over this so I don't make a mess of my work. We're back to 2 people watching. I just need to protect this so that I am not making a gigantic mess and spilling paint everywhere as I work. Hello, hello, hello. So I started this piece months ago. And then I put it aside for a while because I was working on other stuff and also just not getting a whole lot of work done. Hello, hello, hello. We've got more people joining. How is everyone? How's your Friday? So today I'm using some of my Roman Schmal Aquarius paints that I've put into this little palette. I've got a little sticker by Sarah Bailey on the cover here. I hate corn, but you made it look beautiful. Well, I'm not sure yet how beautiful this is, but we're gonna work on it. And hopefully I'll get it looking like a corn cob. I'm sorry you don't like corn though. I feel like every day there's going to be someone who doesn't like what I'm painting though. Doesn't doesn't enjoy eating it. That is the problem with painting vegetables. See, if I was painting chocolate cake, it would be less divisive. Let's see. I'll move this over just a little. I'll move this up so you can see. It's always a balance. So you want to see all the things I'm working on. I love watching you painting it, but not eating it unless it's creamed corn or popped corn. I used to really love creamed corn as a little kid. And then I tried to buy it as an adult once. I didn't love it quite so much. It was a special treat. My mom's watching today. Right, Mom? We didn't get creamed corn super frequently. I'm trying to balance getting these shadows in ahead of time, but I also want them to be really sort of fine and detailed. It's a little bit tricky to get this just right. Hi Dan, how are you? I actually managed to get my description up in time, so I've got your Sunday stream listed. I also got stabbed this week. Ooh, second shot or first? First shot, second one is in September. Okay, cool. Hopefully they'll speed it up. I know there's concerns about the various variants spreading. So my second shot was originally scheduled for late August. But then they ended up speeding things up around here. And I got it a couple weeks ago. At least until the next variants come around and fully immune. Well, as immune as I'm getting. I think it has to be 12 weeks apart, but we might also be getting a third booster. 12 weeks, I believe, is the max it's rated for. Or it depends. Which shot did you get? I'm assuming like either Pfizer or Moderna? Unless your options are different. Such weird conversations we have these days. We have Pfizer, Moderna for the under 30s. If you're over 30, you might get the AstraZeneca, which I think was the first vaccines they did. Yeah, okay, so it's similar to here. I mean, there's Johnson & Johnson too, but that one seems to be pretty uncommon. But yeah, most people here are getting Pfizer or Moderna. They started out doing AstraZeneca, but it was only approved initially only, I believe, 55 plus in Canada. And then they expanded it to 45 plus or 40 plus. I don't know, something. But it was never approved for younger people. And then with once supply came up of other things, they actually discontinued distributing new AstraZeneca doses. So I guess our remaining supply will be donated to other countries where it is approved. But then they switched. So even people who got a first shot of AstraZeneca now in Canada have the option of getting their second shot as Pfizer. But my understanding is Pfizer and Moderna, both, you could get your second shot after 4 weeks. But up to 12 weeks. And then in some jurisdictions they extended to 16. But so I had Pfizer, but I got my 2 shots 5 weeks apart. So this painting yellows thing is tough, and really not thrilled with how this is coming out, but must carry on. I mean, worst case scenario, because this is a personal project, I can always just do another attempt and digitally edit it in. Serves me right for not practicing first, I guess. What paints are these? Yeah, these are the Roman schmaltz. Well, they are honey based, so that's why they would look like Jackson's or Sennelier. They are Roman schmaltz. I have like kind of an absurd collection of Roman schmaltz because the company sent me a bunch. So I don't generally do, you know, individual brand palette things. I have all my different brands mixed up, but because I have so many Roman Schmal and just in an attempt to get through using them and make the most of them, I've actually put them in a palette on their own. Is it raining? Yes, it is quite wet here. Hi Lauren, hi Stephen. The UK have ordered 20 million doses of Johnson & Johnson. I think they will be our booster shot as they haven't arrived yet. I might have that wrong. It might be over 40s for Zeneca. The moment we have Pfizer, Moderna for the under 30s, and if you're over 30, you might get. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm got. Scrolling way back. I hope my sound quality isn't too terrible. And let me know if your image quality drops off. We are having some internet issues. So I can always just switch to my mobile internet, which tends to be oddly a little bit more reliable, which is odd given how much we pay for good internet. Sucks that our internet isn't so good. I ran out of paper this week. I wonder if I can go into Curry's and get some. I wonder if Curry's has any. Well, they probably have any. I don't know. Are they taking walk-in customers right now? Or is it, I mean, I'm sure you could call them and find out. Like, I'm sure that they are running. I'm just not sure if they've fully reopened yet with the provincial regulations. I'm kind of out of the loop because I basically am a hermit and don't leave the house anyway. I went to the bakery this morning and got, like, I went to City Cafe and I got bagels. That's been my excitement. Like, that's as much outing as I've had in several weeks. I also got my shot. Oh, and I went to the bloodletting place. So there you go. Been so many places. Got blood drawn. On vacation I've done since 2019. Where are you going somewhere for vacation, Dan? Or are you just taking some time off and staycationing? Edinburgh. Oh, nice. Enjoy Edinburgh. That's exciting. Are you going to see Otto? I'm taking vacation too. Oh, sorry. Let me view that chat. I'm taking vacation too. I quit my awful warehouse job and will take a week off and start working at a grocery store part-time so I can focus more on my bird breeding and my art. That sounds really cool, Amber, and honestly, bird breeding sounds a whole lot more fun than warehouse job, so I'm glad that you have a chance to focus more on art and fun work than I haven't mentioned it to Otto yet. I know she's super busy at the moment, so it might not be doable, right? Because she's moving as well, isn't she? Okay, well, I mean, mention it. I'm sure she'd love to see you, if it's safe and if she's not super busy and etc. We planned to go summer of 2020, but yeah, we wanted to go do something, and traveling abroad was out of the question, and we both really want to go to Edinburgh, and my partner has never been. Cool. Well, I'm glad you're getting a chance now. I have not been, let's see, I went to Australia in 2018, and that's the last time I've been like more than 150 kilometers away from my house. Like, or less, 120. I visited my sister a couple of times. Take care of my nephew, but that's about it. That's been my excitement. I don't know when I'll be able to travel again, but okay. I'm gonna ignore this corn cob for a moment and pull away the screen and see about working on some other part of this a little bit. I feel like if I overwork this corn cob, well, no good can come of that. I think today was her moving day. She's been shot twice, I think. Hot dogs there. In Edinburgh? Okay, cool. Death rates are quite low, but cases are rising. And beer? I don't know. My aim is I hope my other hand falls in love with it and wants to move there as much as I do. I was waiting for other folks to get their shot. Now I kind of slipped through it all. I'd better get booked. Yes, definitely get booked. Absolutely. There is an excess of shots of doses available locally, and a local outbreak. So get booked, Stephen. Yes, I've had both of my shots now. And yes, I probably will need to get a third shot at some point, but I don't think they're made yet. So I don't know. I had Pfizer, and I think they did announce that they were likely going to need a third vaccine, but it's not announced, not made yet. So at least for now, I'm as fully vaccinated as I can get. Well, I hope Oto's move went well as well. FedEx me went, Lauren, you can just book yourself. Like, Misha got their second shot. You can just go find a clinic and wait in line. Like, it's not. Doses are available. Doses are available now. You can go get your shot. Second, no. Lauren, if Misha can do it, you can too. If Misha can do it, you can too. Okay, I'm not arguing. This is dumb. You've had your vaccine long enough now. You can get your second shot. I guess Misha's the better sibling. That varies day to day who's the better sibling. Yes, but there's pop-up clinics, Lauren. Like Misha did. Or you can call in and put yourself on a last-minute call list like I did. For the second one? Yes, for the second one. Who's the better sibling varies wildly day to day. There are 5 of us. Misha and Lauren are the 2 youngest. Six? Where do you get 6? Arthur is not a sibling. Okay, yes. Is that where Lauren was getting 6? There are not 6 of us. There are 5 of us. Okay, no. The nephew is not a sibling, and the dog is also not a sibling. There are 5 of us. Anyway, of my two younger siblings, I'm not sure who the good one and the bratty one are. I think that varies day to day. But Lauren is the baby who's commenting in here, and he's the only one of us who hasn't gotten his second shot. So I'm harassing him. Lauren, you can't visit until you have your second shot. Get your second shot. I agree with Lauren. I think a dog can totally be a sibling. I'm dubious. Anyway, the nephew is definitely not a sibling. He's a nephew. That's slightly different. Okay. I'm gonna paint some raspberries over here. Okay. This is dry. I'm gonna cover it up. Oy. Go. Let's let that settle for a moment. And get a little bit more in here. A little bit more in there. Love the color variation in foods. Even the same area of the color wheel has so many slightly different colors. Are there gonna be strawberries? Ooh, radishes. I didn't think of radishes. I could do radishes. So I was avoiding strawberries. I even have strawberries that I could use as reference from the garden. But I really hate painting strawberries because they have those little divots with the seeds. So like either you spend a lot of time painting around them or you use masking fluid, which is two things I hate. So I was kind of avoiding strawberries. I like eating strawberries. Sorry, let me reread Mom's comment. Wait. Live chat. There's a difference. Doggos are more. Okay. All right. Cool. Awesome. So today we have my mom in here to tell me why she loves the dog more. Are dogs also smarter? Certainly than some of my younger siblings. Less easily distracted, too. Okay, now let's get some I've been practicing casing. No, alas, I've been doing very little of most things. I was knocked flat by my second shot. I took care of my nephew for a while. What all have I done? I just started on stimulants for ADHD, which has made me infinitely more productive this week, but also has been an adjustment, and it took some time to chase them down. Had hardly any symptoms from mine. Yeah, my first one wasn't too bad. My second one triggered an autoimmune response. Hi, Paolo, how are you? So, yeah, so my second one, it wasn't even, like, I don't think it was the vaccine directly, but, you know, it triggered, it was like I got the regular soreness and whatever for the first couple days, and then it kicked me flat about 4 days in. When my body reacted. So, yeah, it wasn't fun. Well, so the thing with autoimmune, so we're getting to the part of this stream where we talk about my mysterious health issues. I have antibodies against myself, so I'm basically allergic to myself, and they're still tracking down exactly what kind of allergic to myself I am. There's some leads on that in my blood work, apparently. But I when I have any kind of an injury, an immune response, anything, and the inside of my cells shows up, my body reacts by making me sicker and attacking my own cells. So the initial response wasn't too bad, but then it triggered an autoimmune response. And then I got really, really sick for a couple days. So that sucked. Yeah. So that's fun. That's the mystery part of my diagnosis. The less mysterious part is I have ADHD. And so that's part of what was making me super distracted all the time. But now it's medicated, so I can think clearly. It's really wonderful. I was able to start my stream on time with all of my, well, on time, 2 minutes late, with all of my stuff, including the palette and the right mixing plate and my piece and all my lights. Magic, this never happens. So as much as I was teasing my younger siblings about being less easily more easily distractible than the dog, joining in my mom's teasing, I'm right up there with them in terms of being easily distractible. All three of us have ADHD. We manage it very, very differently. And actually, Misha's not diagnosed, but Laura and I both are. Misha suspects they have ADHD as well. So happy to catch your stream. Well, I'm so happy to be having a stream. I skipped the last few weeks just with everything else going on and just being sort of overwhelmed and not feeling so great. But I'm happy to be back. Great. You have a lot of bird sounds. Quinn red for the raspberry. I have a mix of things for the raspberry. I'm using Aquarius red, which is I think PR 168. It's a unique pigment. I might be wrong about the pigment number even. And Quinn fuchsia. PR 202. And some random purples and blues that I have. I'm just using what I have. Like, I put together a palette that's the colors I have from Roman Schmal, and I sort of, like, I tried to choose, in as much as I did any selection there, I tried to choose things that were similar to, but not exactly what I usually use in my other palettes, just, you know, for variety. The court has decided on the George Floyd case. Okay, and? Tell me more. Am I gonna be like really upset when I hear this? Mom says I have a lot of bird sounds. I do have a lot of bird sounds. We have lots of birds. The garden has helped. Oh, I also got another, one of my neighbors has been very kindly giving me an A for effort and nominating me for the garden, like the Kitchener and Bloom Award every year. So I got another one of those little plaques, which is nice. Even though my garden, up until like last week, I had a big pile of manure in my, like the front of my driveway. So, you know, it certainly wasn't for the beautiful enjoyment of seeing my manure pile. So somebody's been nominating me for effort, which is great. I appreciate it. 22.5 years in jail for the policeman who murdered him. Yes, thank goodness. Okay. Oh, good. Good. What about the other officers on scene? Or was it just, what was happening today? Was it just was it just Derek Chauvin who was getting sentenced? It was just a sentencing hearing, right? So, was it just the one guy? So the tricky thing with raspberries is they have this like weird sort of bloom on them, and so I'm trying to keep this soft. Not bad that they had to have a trial though. It's just for the knee guy. Well, I'm just relieved that they are actually like that's actually a, you know, that's a punishment that's somewhat in line with what second degree murder usually, like that's usually what the penalty would look like. Versus so many of these police officers get away with not only like they don't get jail time, but they keep their job. They like it's just a relief to see, like, at least in this one case, at least here, it's like, no, that's, you know, I'm not okay. Murder is not okay, not even if you're a police officer. In more depressing news, I don't know how much this has been broadcast outside of Canada, but they've been digging up unmarked graves in the residential schools. So Native children in Canada for about 100 years were forced away from their families to residential schools to get integrated into white society, supposedly. So these schools were run by the churches, and they were horrifying. And a number of them have grave sites. So a month or two ago, there was one dug up with 200 and something, 250, 215, or 250 graves. And then just yesterday, that prompted another nation, another native tribe to go look into one of their local residential schools, where they found 715 unmarked graves. And they haven't started digging yet. There's actually a possibility that it'll be more once they start digging, because that's just how many they were able to identify via radar. So yeah, it's not a mass grave, but the graves are unmarked, and they were, at least in the most recent case, they were at one point marked, and then when the Catholic Church handed over control to the federal government, they destroyed the gravestones, the grave markers, on their way out. So just a lot of dead children. So that's the national tragedy right now. 215. It was reported outside Canada. Good. I mean, it should be. It's absolutely horrifying. 215. Yeah, yeah. And then it was 700. How many? 750? When I think of the lessons I was taught in grade 8 about the bad Indians attacking the nice priests, oh my goodness. Okay, at least our schooling wasn't quite that skewed by the time I went to school, but certainly there was like very little focus on residential schools. Like, okay, yeah, they would, residential schools happened, that was bad, bye. But I mean, they're recent too. The last residential school, I mean, the one that they announced yesterday with 700 and whatever graves, however many it is, too many. That one was operational. It was operating in 1996, by which point I was in school. So like, while I was in school, there were kids there. Now, by the end, it wasn't residential. And also by the end, it was run by the tribal council. So it transferred from the Catholic Church. It was run by the Catholic Church for nearly 100 years, like 90 years, and then it was run by the federal government, and then it was run by the tribal council. So it was tribal council by the time I was in school. But still, like, the fact that these places were ever existed at all, and that they existed so recently, and we don't really, like, I don't know what schooling is like now, but certainly when we were in school, we were not taught about this. Like, barely at all. Hi, Lana. I'll have to look him up, Stephen. I'm not familiar with his work. Yeah, we weren't taught like the bad Indians attacking the priests or any of that nonsense. Although it doesn't really surprise me that was taught. I mean, a lot of that is like the justification for why these places were run. And again, this isn't ancient history. This is quite recent in terms of, there's a lot of people alive today who were sent to residential school, who can tell you stories about kids dying there. It's not old. I mean, there's some other, like, there's some political news around that too, where the former, like, recent Attorney General was the first Native woman to hold a. I think she was actually the first to hold a cabinet position at all. And she got pushed out of the current government in the midst of another scandal that she kind of took the fall for. And she commented very critically of the government. Trudeau's response, and then posted a she got a text from the current Native Affairs Minister, or whatever that department has been renamed to. Who basically accused her of, wanting to delay an election for a pension or some nonsense. It's just like, we're still not through. Still not through. This nonsense. Still a very racist country. I was surprised to learn that Emily Carr was not Native but English. Yes, of course Emily Carr was English. Sorry, I mean, why did you think she was Native? Yeah, I should probably do a little bit more research on, get a little bit more familiar with Native art and artists. Definitely not super familiar. I mean, to be honest, I don't feel like I'm super familiar with the art world in general. But early work. She immersed herself in Native communities, and I guess that influenced her work. Oh, okay, cool. I should look up her early work. It sounds interesting. I'm getting confused by this. What am I? Sorry. I need to sort of step away and look at the whole thing again. All together. It's hard when I'm painting all of these things side by side to try to balance everything so that, you know, I'm not, like, because it's not just one thing that needs to look nice. It all needs to tie together. Colors look very accurate, thanks, but like it's more than just accurate, actually. I mean, you can have different, like if you look at different botanical artists, you know, you can have two different artists and they're both painting realistically, they're both painting accurately, but you know, their work still looks completely different from each other. And that's kind of the beauty of artwork, but I just need everything within one piece to tie together. So I kind of have to step away, you know, I get drawn into one detail and then step away and make sure that it all still works together. Also, because I'm kind of making up this composition as I go along, there's so much that I'm learning, that I'm understanding about myself. So I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD, just a few months ago, and I started stimulants. I'm on a baby dose, like what these prescribed to 6-year-olds, but I only started like earlier this week. It's so interesting seeing how it's affected my brain. And then looking at things like this and the fact that I just sort of launch into painting and I don't have the focus to plan the whole thing ahead. You know, I can do it once, but in terms of like rote, repetitive things, I can't force myself to do them at all, especially unmedicated. Medicated, I'm quite a bit better at it, but it's very interesting. It's like patterns. How I work is very shaped by how my brain, you know, the quirks of my brain. Thanks, everyone. else was I going to put in this painting? All sorts of things. Okay, still need some more of the raspberries, and then I'm gonna need to put some more vegetables in here. Get some kale leaves or something in through here, and some etc. I think I'm gonna make potatoes here. Does anyone have any favorite vegetables that I should add in last minute? Yes, no, maybe. I'm also just gonna have to add some more white highlights all around, but I'll do that after. I'm trying to leave in like paper white, but also just I know that I'm going to be adding in a little bit of gouache at the end. So is this the actual illustration from the front of the guide? No. No. Because I don't want to, like, I want to show some creativity and that I'm doing my own thing. So some of the vegetables, like a lot of the composition is exactly the same as the guide, but I've replaced some of the items I'm replacing with things that I like better. So for example, the corn is not there at all. I just think that it's a particularly, like, I wanted to focus on foods that are grown in Canada, that are produced in Canada, and you know, some of my personal favorites in particular. So like there were no peaches, there were no there was no sweet corn in the original guide, and those are things that I really like, so I decided to add them. I still haven't decided. The original guide has rice in it, and technically rice could be grown in Canada, but there's exactly one rice farm in Canada, and it's not a very large one, so it seems particularly weird to keep rice there, given that we do grow so many other grains, that like maybe I might just replace it with something else, like barley or quinoa. Like quinoa's actually grown in Canada a fair bit now, but we import the majority of our rice, so the vast overwhelming majority of our rice. So the idea of including just plain rice in here, I mean, we do have wild rice, like our native wild rice, and I will include that, but regular rice, not so sure. Quinoa's distinctive, has that little ring looking thing on the grain. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is a thing where I'm probably going to have to use masking fluid to do it right. Unless I want to do it all in gouache. But again, I'm just figuring that out as I go. So that'll be in here somewhere, and I figure I can do the rest of it and then worry about that part. So much planning. So what are you working on outside of live streams? Well, I have a commission that I can't share due to a client contract. So I can't share that. And I'm doing some sketching. I mean, to be honest, I haven't done a huge amount. I have the thing for Birdie. Armadillo tattoo that I did for Birdie. I have some sketchbook work. I have actually quite a bit of sketchbook work. I have this, which isn't just for live streams. It's just, it was set aside for a while because of other work. I have a commission I can't share. I have a whole bunch of prep work for like showpieces, because this time of year everything is blooming. So all the prep work I can do for the rest of the year. Painting beets and green garlic and sundial lupins and liatris and peppers. But yeah. So I'm juggling a lot of, it's like everything and nothing. I feel like I am not working on anything in particular, but I'm actually working on like 8 things. And then there's always video work and blog work and etc. Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to watch as the number of things grow. How many hours will the complete piece take? Oh, for this one? I don't know. How many hours have I put into this already? So this much has taken probably about 12-15 hours. And let's say that I'm about a quarter done, probably more like a fifth. So learning to round up about 100 hours. To finish the whole thing. So, yeah. This is definitely not a time effective piece at all. But sometimes you just gotta do interesting things, even if they're not time effective. It's definitely easier to do things where you have, more of the same. Like, it's not here, like every little bit is different. And there's all of these different textures. I had the famous vegetarian epicure books with the pen drawings of food. Oh, I should look that up. You've been, like, all stream, you've been bringing up things that I should look up. I'm gonna have to reread some of this conversation later because otherwise I won't remember any of this. Anna Thomas? Okay, actually, I'm gonna write some of this stuff down. One moment. We'll just take up this page with notes. Sorry. Anna Thomas? Vegetarian epicure? Question mark? The recipes were carcass-free, but also dripping with oil and eggs and cheese and butter. Sounds delicious. You mentioned an artist as well that I wanted to look up. Who was it? Alex Janvier? Alex? Is it Alex? Or am I just like making up a first name? Yeah, okay. I'm not just making up a name. Okay, yeah. Cool. Awesome. I will look those things up later. And I have to write them down, otherwise I will forget, because I forget everything. Yesterday, I have not one but two community garden plots now. Because I have a community garden plot, and then the garden coordinator sent out an email asking for help maintaining some garden beds in a park up the street. And I said, sure, I'll help, thinking that this was, okay, well, I'll go in there and weed sometimes, that's fine. But apparently, no, these were supposed to be beds that were originally, like when they got the city to put them in, the goal was to have them run by like seniors and people with mobility issues, but they're in the very busy park, and so they had theft and vandalism from these garden beds, and so they couldn't get seniors and people with mobility issues to sign up for them because people didn't want to take care of beds that are going to get vandalized, especially people who already struggle to get to them. So they're just trying to make them really pretty. And so they got experienced gardeners to come in and plant them out nicely and take care of them. And hopefully next year or in a couple of years, they'll be able to use them as intended after they've been established, as this is a community garden. But I didn't realize what I was signing up for. So I have a second community garden plot, which is weird. Not what I intended to do. And I went in there yesterday to water, and there's a lock on the city. It's like on the city water supply that I have a combination to, or I had a combination to, and I opened it. And for the life of me, I can't figure out what I did with the lock. Like, did I eat it? I couldn't find it. It was late at night, so the sun was coming down. I couldn't find it. So I went back early in the morning with a combination lock from home, and I locked it up with my own lock. After searching high and low, searching this whole park once the sun came up. And I don't know what I did to the lock. I genuinely, I don't know. I lose track of things constantly. So I have to write things down. Emily Carr. Yes, I will write down Emily Carr as well. I am familiar with Emily Carr, though. I don't just Emily Carr's early work is what I guess I want to look at. Early work. Native and SciArt, right? Yes. Okay. So I write everything down, and at least now that I'm medicated, I can remember to where I left the notebook where I wrote everything down. I still can't remember what I discussed. You buried it, and next year there will be a lock tree. Yes, probably. Did you look in the freezer? It could be in there. It probably is in there. Like, I will probably find it in my laundry. I don't know what I did with it. It was super embarrassing because then I had to send out an email to all the other gardeners like, sorry about that lock. I don't know what I did with it. Maybe I ate it, but now there's a new one, and here's the new combination. I can relate to the losing everything bit. I hope you find it. Yeah. But the good news is, now that I'm medicated, when I actually decide to do something, I can actually do it. Like, I can make coffee without boiling the water 6 times. Okay, I'm gonna paint some more peas because that does a woohoo. $400 a month commuter pass, start of the month, super. Or leave keys at work, get 110 minutes into 2-hour commute, and realize, I can't get into my car. How did you start your commute without your car? I'm so confused. Do you park your car somewhere that's not your house? Alex, explain this to me. Also, Alex, happy belated birthday. And I was just going to send you a little message asking when your birthday is so that I can send you a little birthday surprise. And so you're getting a belated birthday surprise. Drove to commuter rail. Leave car keys at work. Oh, okay, got it. This is on the way home. Understood. Again. Woohoo, party! Alex is 21. When the walk of shame is a 5 a.m. walk to the commuter rail where your car lives every time you lose your keys. Yeah. Yep. That sounds awfully familiar. So if you want, I have two versions of that are like worse than the 5 a.m. walk of shame to the commuter rail station. The first one involves a railway. So I went to a conference and I can carry exactly one thing at once. You know, I can carry my purse, that's fine. And then my wallet, which is also, so I have learned that if I have a wallet and a phone, I'll go to a restaurant or whatever, and I'll have my phone out, and then I'll get out my wallet and I'll drop one of them. So it's best if they're together, because then it's just one thing. I can keep track of one thing at a time. So I have one thing, which means that I lose it far less frequently. But when I lose it, I lose everything. So I went to a conference in Ottawa. And I had this whole schedule where I was going to a conference in Ottawa, and then the next day I was going to Hamilton for a show opening. And of course, on the train ride back from Ottawa, on the train ride, so it's like two trains, so from Ottawa to Toronto to Kitchener-Waterloo. And so on the first train, I of course had to get out my wallet to show my ticket, and left it. So wallet, phone, everything, it's all there. And I got off and I got onto the next train, and on the next train I realized, oh shoot, I no longer have my wallet. Yeah, so that was fun. And I get home and contact the railway and say, I know exactly where this where this phone is, because I can GPS track it. It's on this train, it's at this railway yard, you can go find it. So they say, okay, cool, we'll do that. And you can come pick it up at Toronto Union Station. Well, the next day I have a thing in Hamilton, so Jordan came with me, and I go to Union Station. All right, I'm gonna pick up my phone at Union Station, where they said it would be, and somebody had forgotten to transfer the box from the train going back to Union Station to the Lost and Found. So instead, my wallet was taking a random tour. So then I go back to Kitchener-Waterloo, 100 kilometers away, and I call them up and like, okay, you know, I can't keep coming to Toronto every time, so can you please bring my phone to me? And they say, yes, it's gonna take a little tour around the province first, because that's the route that this train is taking. But then, you know, 2 days from now, we'll put it on this new train, and then you can meet it, and you can meet the conductor and get it transferred. So there was the time that my phone took a tour around the province without me. And I thought that was enough excitement for my belongings. Till I went to Australia, and my passport took both me and my passport traveled around the continent, but in vastly different cities, and nobody, like, while trying to get in touch with embassies and consulates overseas, real fun. Real fun. Do not recommend. Can't they send it via mail? That would probably be much slower, to be honest. Like, they'd have to pack it up. Yeah. Although in the case of the passport, there was mail involved. So what happened with the passport was, I dropped it at the airport on my way in. So I had a series of overnight flights, and I show up overnight. I mean, it's also like the other side of the planet, so overnight, overday, doesn't really matter. Either way, you're in transit for, yeah, traveling to the other side of the planet is, overnight, middle of the day, doesn't matter. Either way, you leave and you show up 2 days later after 20 hours, and something that was 2 nights or 2 days, like, traveling around the world is bizarre. So I show up very, very jet lagged, get through customs with my passport and my phone and all my luggage and whatever, and I'm talking to our family friends who picked us up, and I put the rest of my passport, and on top of it was actually a fire extinguisher, but it was sort of like at hand level or whatever, and we're just chatting, and then of course I walk away without it, because that's what I do. The more things you can physically attach to your person, the better. I'm all about that carabiner and fanny pack life. Yeah, no kidding. Next time, my passport is like getting attached to like one of those passport lanyard things, or like the holder thing. I'll just like wear it on a lanyard around my neck, and it's not coming off until I'm at my destination. Then it goes into a lockbox. Anyway, so I drop it at Melbourne Airport, and I go away, and I, have a nice time in Melbourne until I'm getting ready for my next flight to Brisbane. And getting ready for my next flight, and okay, I'm getting my passport, and where's my passport? My passport is not in the passport pocket of my luggage. Well, that's kind of a problem. Where's my passport? So I panic and have a meltdown. And our lovely family friends are saying, don't worry about it. It's probably somewhere in our house, and if it's not, then you'll find it later. You can just get on without it. But it's a flight. I can't get on without a passport. It turns out that in Australia, you can fly without a passport. You can fly all over the continent without a passport. In fact, they don't check ID at all when you're flying in Australia, which was I was saying, okay, well, yes, I understand it's a national flight, but you need to show ID. And the only ID I have is, a health card from Canada. They're not going to accept that as ID. I don't know. Don't worry about it. You don't need ID. It's a national flight. Are you sure? You want me to travel? You want me to go to the airport and travel without ID? Yeah. Don't worry about it. That's not going to be a problem. Don't worry about it. So I go to the airport and I board a flight without ID because sure enough, they do not check. There's absolutely no check. Yet, in Australia, you don't need ID. I could book a flight as Mickey Mouse and get on the flight. They will search your bag up and down for anything that resembles a liquid or a food item, but they don't care who you are. You can literally buy a ticket as Mickey Mouse and board the flight, and nobody cares. So anyway, so I get on this flight to Brisbane, which felt super weird because I'm so used to, I'm in Canada. First of all, we don't do national flights that much. It's more frequent to, even if you are flying somewhere else in the country, to fly through the US. But even national flights, you do need ID. Technically, you don't need a passport, but you need ID. You could use your driver's license. But if you were not Canadian and you were flying a national flight, you would use your passport because your British ID wouldn't be recognized necessarily. They'd want to see your passport. But in Australia, they don't check anything. It doesn't matter if you look dangerous. They don't have a process for checking your ID. It's not part of it's literally not part of the security. They do have extensive security, but they don't have anyone checking your name. They will search your bags up and down. They'll scan them, and anything that looks mildly, even slightly suspicious, they will confiscate your deodorant if they don't like it. They will confiscate, do you have any kind of food items? Are you trying to smuggle an apple from one state to another? They will confiscate your apple, but they don't care what your name is. Yes, exactly. That's so in Australia they recognize that. super weird, but anyway, so I traveled to Brisbane and I arrived there and I call them, and when I call them, it is then July 1st. So I call them, I arrive on Monday, I have my conference, I show up at my conference and I skip the first session so that I can call the Canadian Embassy. And I call the Canadian Embassy and it's July 1st in Australia. And it is I call the Canadian Embassy. It's July 1st in Australia, and it is, I guess, June 30th in Canada. And I speak to a guy who picks up and says, "Happy Canada Day." And I have this moment of like, it's not Canada Day in Canada. Like, cool, thank you. Talk to him, and he says, okay, we'll call security at Melbourne Airport. I call security at Melbourne Airport, where I get the Australians. The Australians are just lovely. The Australians are so good. They tell me, yes, they retrieved my passport. They tell me they held it for 3 days and then they sent it to the consulate. Can you double check that for me? You mean the consulate in Sydney and not the embassy in Canberra? Yes, we mean the consulate in Sydney and not the embassy in Canberra. Okay, so I will call the consulate. Well, I call the consulate and the consulate is closed because it's Canada Day. Now remember, we're in Australia. It's Canada Day in Australia. It is not Canada Day in Canada. Nonetheless, the consulate is closed. Okay, so I call the embassy back and I say, so here's what happened. It got sent to the consulate, but the consulate is closed. Can you get in touch with them? And they say, well, we've got you on file, but you should call them tomorrow. Okay, so I'll call them tomorrow. It turns out that the consulate has some complicated, they're like open, between 11 a.m. and 12:30, and then they're closed again. And then you get their answering service, and then they're open for a few hours in the afternoon, and then they're closed again. So tracking them down at all is difficult. When I finally get a hold of their actual answering service, their actual okay, now we're open, you still don't get a human, you just get their answering service, which turns you around in circles and please leave a message. So their answering machine only works 4 hours a day. Yeah, right. So I leave a message at the consulate. And nothing happens and nothing happens, and 2 days go by, and I'm really freaking out because if my passport is lost or canceled, then I really need to get a new passport, right? And that's going to be difficult because I'm in the wrong continent to get a new passport. And I call them and I have a meltdown to the consulate. And I finally, I go through their crazy menu and I finally get a secretary who has no power to do anything, and I have a meltdown to her. Can you please speak to whoever this agent is? And figure out, is this, have you received my passport, which was sent. I think I even probably had a tracking number from the Australians, which has been sent to your office. Can you check that you've received it and not canceled it? And if so, get me instructions to get it to me. Like, do I need to pay you to send it to me? Do I need to go to Sydney and pick it up, which is like way out of my way? But do I need to do this? And this whole time I'm at this conference, I'm just like progressively freaking out more over the 10 days that I was in Brisbane. And I call the embassy back and they say, yeah, well, it's supposed to go to the consulate, but we've told them not to cancel it. And we don't know if it's arrived yet. Whatever. Finally, the day that I'm supposed to leave Brisbane, from there we were going into the rainforest, where I wouldn't have internet access. And so I had all my forms to request a new passport. And at this point was like, am I going to have to delay my trip home? Am I going to, what is happening? Am I going to have to request that they issue me a temporary passport to get back home? I just need to get out of this country. Do I need to cancel my trip into the rainforest? What am I doing? I'm only here for another week. Where's my passport? And I call the emergency line in Ottawa. So there's a emergency Canadians abroad line that's open 24 hours. And I've been frantically calling the embassy and the consulate, and the embassy answers, but they aren't in the loop about what's happening with my passport, which got sent to the consulate. The consulate doesn't seem to have humans staffing it. They have an answering service that only answers 4 random hours out of every weekday, and not on Australian holidays, and definitely not on Canadian holidays, especially during Australian hours. So I have this meltdown, and so I call first thing, it's the last weekday that I'm at that I'm in Brisbane. It's a Monday morning, 9 a.m. I call the consulate. I speak to the receptionist. The receptionist doesn't have an answer. She says, well, that file has been, the receptionist doesn't have an answer. I fully melt down. She says that file has been transferred to the embassy, whatever that means. Okay, cool, but what about the actual passport? We don't have an answer for you. And freaking out, I call the Canadians abroad line in Ottawa. So it is now 9 a.m. in Australia, which means that it's the middle of the night on Sunday. In Canada, I call the Canadians abroad line, the emergency line, and I have this crying meltdown. I've been chasing this passport for it's been 2 weeks since I've seen my passport. I've been chasing it for 11 days. I know it was found at Melbourne Airport by the Australian Border Force. I know that they sent it to the Canadian consulate. I know that the plan was originally that they would send it back to me so that I would not need to cancel my passport, and I cannot get in touch with the human who received it. What should I do? I need to get home. And the totally unhelpful, least polite Canadian I have ever met tells me, well, policy is that found passports are immediately canceled. And I said, I understand that, but I was told by the Canadian Embassy in Canberra that they were going to send it to me. Well, you should go to the embassy. Yes, I understand that, but I am in Brisbane and the embassy is in Canberra, and that's in a different, like, that is 2,000 kilometers away. So I would go there if I knew that there was a passport there or that was the only way to go home, but it is 2,000 kilometers away, so it's not just a trivial, like, I'm just going to go there. Well, you should have gone there. Like, you're Canadian. It's like you're saying, like, just go to Winnipeg from Toronto. Like, you do understand this is crazy. Well, I can only tell you what our policy is. Okay. Can you get in touch with the Canadian consulate in Sydney for me? Because they don't seem to be responding to my calls, and I need to know if they have my passport. If they do, if they need me to go pick it up, because I can arrange that, but I need to know that now. Well, you should apply for a new passport because the policy is that it would be canceled. Right, but I was told not to do that by the embassy, so I just need to know what to do from the consulate, and I can't get in touch with the consulate. So I'm getting in touch with you. Could you get in touch with the consulate? Well, we'll do that on Monday. It's the middle of the night. Well, I'm in Australia, so no, it's not the middle of the night. It's 9 a.m. on Monday. Please contact the consulate. And so I hang up and just have this bawling fit and start going through the process of applying for a new passport. Like, I start filling out forms because at this point I'm like, well, I don't know what's happening, and I'm probably going to be stranded in this country for an extra month while I deal with the embassy to get a new passport. But I need a new passport. And then I get a call back, frantic, from the guy I'd been speaking to at the embassy, who was very friendly. Then I get a call back from, who did I get a call back from? No, then I get a call back from, first, the consulate. And the consulate says, we sent it to the embassy. We sent your passport to the embassy. So while I went from Melbourne to Brisbane, the passport went from Melbourne to Canberra to Sydney. And then, okay, you sent it to the consulate. All right then. Consulate. Or sorry, you sent it to the embassy. Okay, fine. You sent it to the embassy because I called the embassy first. Fine. So then I get a call back then I call the embassy while I'm calling the embassy. So I'm on the phone trying to get through to the guy I spoke to at the embassy initially. While I am on the phone trying to get a hold of him, I get an email back from him saying, you didn't cancel this passport, did you? And I can, no, whatever. I get him on the phone and he's like, he's just determined, like, you didn't cancel this passport. Please tell me you didn't cancel this passport. You called Ottawa. Tell me Ottawa didn't cancel this passport. I said, Ottawa didn't cancel this passport. Ottawa told me that your policy was you were going to cancel it. And so I'm freaking out. And he says, we didn't cancel it, and we made sure that the consulate didn't cancel it, but Ottawa has the power to cancel it. So we need to make sure that this passport that just arrived on my desk as I got a call from Ottawa is not canceled. No, as far as I know, it's not canceled. Okay, so we're going to courier it to an address of your choice. What's your address in Australia? You have a family friend in Melbourne. Can we send it to them? Just popping in to say hi, going to try to getting more sleep. Hi, Joy, how are you? Not very good way to vacation. Yeah. Yeah. So at this point, I'd just been told that I'd been told by the consulate that it would cost some, that I would need to pay some extra fee and send them some envelope and whatever. I'd been told by Ottawa that there was just absolutely no way that I would ever get my passport back, and that furthermore it was canceled. And the guy at the embassy is like, no, we're just gonna pop it in a tracked envelope and send it to your family friends. It's all right. It'll be there when you arrive. So yeah, so I ended up getting my passport back. It arrived at our family friend's house while we were up in the rainforest. I finally saw my passport then 2 days before I left, so it was gone. It took a trip to a different set of cities that I didn't visit. So I visited a bunch of cities and my passport visited a bunch of cities, and there was no overlap between them in Australia, other than like Melbourne Airport, but yeah. The moral of this story is ADHD, so much fun. Veggies and fruit look colorful. Don't they? They're wonderful. And I'm really enjoying how colorful this piece is. And yeah, it turns out that Canadians, so embassies and consulates all suck. I thought it was just other countries' embassies and consulates that suck, but having dealt with the Canadian ones, they're the worst of all. The Australians seem nice. We all just shaved a few years off our lives. That little adventure definitely shaved some years off my life. And I think, well, you know what? It shaved some years off my life, but it was a little bit of a wake-up call where I'd kind of like brushed off, like, oh, whatever, I don't need ADHD treatment. I've survived thus far in my life without it. And I had kind of. Without even so much as an official diagnosis, although had a psychiatrist point out, like, I think I know what's wrong with you. But that experience did kind of like, it was kind of a wake-up call, like, no, this is actually, a problem for me, and maybe a problem that I should deal with. So then It still took me some months after that to start actually dealing with it. And then I didn't actually get a diagnosis until several months ago and didn't actually get treated until this week. But, nonetheless, fun times. Don't recommend losing your passport. Yes, passports now live on lanyards around my neck. They never come off. Like, this is never gonna happen again. Although also stimulants. Australians seem nice. Well, maybe not that I'm looking forward to ever losing my passport in any other countries, but you know, it's possible that the Kiwis would have been even nicer. Okay, I'll just leave that for someone else to discover. This is fine. Well, see, I called Australian Border Force. They answered the phone. I didn't get some weird answering service. When they spoke to me, they greeted me politely, and then they answered my questions. They had a record of who I was, where my passport was, who they sent it to, and they could tell me all of these things clearly with tracking. I'd also like to point out that Canadians seem nice also. The entire Canadian. Okay, but you missed the part of the story where, like, I had to interact with some very not nice Canadians. The Canadians did not live up to their international reputation in this story at all, especially not the ones in Canada. Like, in ranked in order of Canadians, you had like the very Australianized guy at the embassy who was actually helpful. He just didn't Like, he was actually nice. He just, like, literally did not have my passport, so, you know, he didn't have any help to give me, but not for lack of trying. And, you know, he kept crappy embassy hours, but whatever. He was there. And then you had the consulate who just, like, they didn't have actual, as far as I'm, like, I feel like they didn't actually have humans there. They had one secretary whose job it was to run you around in circles, and a whole bunch of answering machines that their answering machines took Canadian holidays off and also, like, only worked 4 hours a day. But that's the answering machines because the humans didn't exist. And then the Canadian in Ottawa, like, she was the rudest person I have ever met. And I am including, like, American Border Patrol, like, TSA agents in that grouping classification. So rude. And so unhelpful. And she was in Ottawa. This was a Canadian working in Ottawa at an emergency help for Canadian lines. You would think that this would be, like, a nice, helpful place to call, but no. Answering machines are taking over. I mean, I guess. So, if Kiwis want to take over as the, like, the most polite people, the nicest people, you know, no competition from us. Right now, Canada's in the news because we have unmarked graves by the hundreds being dug up at schools. So, anyway, yes, and thank you, Alex, for, like, giving me the push that I needed to, like, finally get officially diagnosed and eventually get medicated. It's made a huge difference. Yeah, like, I'm on a very, very low baby dose of stimulants right now. But even on the baby dose, it's rather amazing what a difference it's made to, like, I'm pretty sure that if I were in Australia right now, I wouldn't have lost my passport. I say this, and yeah, yesterday I totally lost a lock at the... But I can do things. My house is getting cleaner without me even, like, having to consciously clean things. just because like I can intend to wipe up the counter and like actually the counter gets wiped up rather than me like getting distracted and making a mess somewhere else. Bye, Paolo. That's just traumatizing and such a thing to deal with in the present. I'm assuming this is historical. The residential schools? Yeah. So the last residential school closed in 1996, 1997. And actually that school, that very school, they just they just identified 751 graves unmarked beside that school. Now they predate, like they're not, the Catholic Church handed over control to the federal government in 1960, and up until that point there were at least some of those graves were marked. It's unclear how many. And on their way out, the Catholic Church desecrated the graves. They removed all the grave markers. So there are people alive who remember there being grave markers there, which is, you know, they knew exactly where to look. But the presumption is that it happened, like that those 751 bodies are all pre-1960. But residential schools were awful through their entire history, and they're not ancient history, right? When I was in school, there were still children in when I started primary school, there were still children my age in being sent to residential schools. So, yeah. They found 200 and something graves at Kamloops School a while back, a month ago. And since then, it's prompted the other tribes and native groups to start searching the grounds of all the other residential schools across the country. So there's going to be more for sure, but there was just an announcement yesterday of a school with 700 and some odd graves. And again, that was just like, they were just sonar. They were just sonar imaging to figure out how many graves there are. They haven't started digging. The expectation is when they start digging, they will find somewhat more. They're not mass graves. So these are individual graves. And they're unmarked. At least some of them were at one point marked. They just, the Catholic Church removed the markers on their way out. So, you know, it's also horrifying. It's a slightly different variety of horrifying. Yeah, residential schools came up as I was seeking the most relevant research in certain areas on Indigenous realities. Yeah. And I mean, the other kind of horrifying thing about the Canadian residential school system is like, I'm not sure, it may have changed somewhat very, very recently, but when I was in school, I mean, keep in mind that the residential schools, they only closed. Like the last one closed when I was already in school. So they're not ancient history, but the way history was taught to Canadians, even recently, even, you know, my siblings who graduated from high school recently, was, you know, it was barely touched on. It was like, yeah, this thing happened and it was bad. The end. Bye. See ya, Alex. I'll be in touch. Stephen was saying at the time when he went to school, it was like, it was even worse, where they were telling him stories about, you know, oh, those nasty native kids attacking the priests. Which, I mean, at that point, like by the time I was in school, there were a couple of residential schools still in operation, but they were all on their way out. But you know, when Stephen went to school, they were very much still around. So it wasn't, you know, it wasn't teaching history at that point. It was teaching current reality. Okay, I need to run to the washroom. I will be right back. As soon as I just need to wipe this down. I remember learning how our school books had to meet certain standards. Yeah, I understand that better now. It's interesting because Canada has acknowledged Indigenous rights in certain areas in quite interesting ways, even in law, which is unexpected. Be brave. If I attempted sleep now, would I get some? What time is it where you are, and how much sleep have you already gotten? I'll be the adultier, I will be the adultier adult right now. I think I'm also going to wrap up. It's been 2 hours and 40 minutes of this, and I need a break and to stretch, so I actually think this is sort of the end of this for me. Thank you all for joining, and I will go publish a Patreon post. That's not my video for publishing. So I have another video ready to come out. I just had some trouble with it yesterday. I didn't want to publish it on the same day as a live stream, but sometime in the next couple days there will be another video. Yeah, you got to catch the end. Bye-bye. Patreon post. Yes, also a Patreon post. There's a Patreon link in the description. There's also a Discord link if there happens to be anyone here who's not on Discord and or Patreon and wants to be. Discord is a free chat platform where we chat throughout the week, and Patreon is a paid platform where you can get some extra content from me. Thank you. Bye-bye.